Hello there everybody and welcome. In this video I want to share 10 really simple and cool things that you might want to know about the new Primal Culture. There's a lot of unique things that they can do, and while I was experimenting around with them I discovered a few things that I really wanted to share, and this video is trying to give you a real good overview about your options, what you can do with these guys, and where they're good at and where they're not so good at, so you need to work around these weaknesses. That all being said, let's get started with number one. I want to talk about the Primal Darters. These are a very special ranged unit, as they are close range. That's the very first thing that I want to point out here. They have only a range of 3, and therefore they need to get pretty much more up close than other people. They have 2 real nice caveats. First off, other tier 1 archers really melt like crazy when somebody has backline access. These guys, they just whip out their disengaging shot and it's good. Also, what I discovered when I was watching auto fight footage from the AI, if you move these guys in a fashion that they only have 1 action point to shoot, it is, as a matter of fact, smarter, if possible, to walk it straight into the face of the enemy and trigger disengaging shot instead of going for a long-range shot. Because you see here the damage difference between the blowgun shot and the disengaging shot. So if you have the ability to walk into the face of an enemy, you can actually pull this off. This is a very unique move of these, and Primal Daughters are really powerful early game archers, as they are feeling a lot like skirmishers without the weaknesses of skirmishers, because they have a fully blown 3-action auto attack. All in all, these guys go really crazy once they fulfill their boon condition, and this is something which I think makes them really a high quality troop for early and mid game tier. So these guys are a real powerhouse, and I can strongly recommend working around the fact that they don't care if they are struck in melee. The only thing you really need to take care about are 2 things. First up, disengaging shot has a cooldown, so don't waste it if you expect these guys to be cornered. And of course, they are tier 1 units, so they melt like ice in the sunshine, so care about that. But apart from this, they are amazing tier 1 archers, and that 1 point of range that you got taken away, you get so much in return for that. Much more than I felt like the downside is. But it is very important to say, these guys scale horrible into the late game. So it's really a good idea to replace them at some point. But early on, fill your ranks with these. Don't care about losing them, because you will replace them with higher quality troops anyways. So the next thing I want to talk about is the summoning qualities from these guys. Every Primal faction gets to summon their Primal animal. This is crazy, because currently, and I expect that to get nerfed along the way, I don't know, this might happen. I'm just don't want you guys to get too happy about it. Currently, you can summon that wherever you want on the battlefield. So yeah, spamming tier 2 units on whatever possible square you want them. I took in this run, for example, a trait which makes summoning cheaper, so you see it's even mana costs really not much. And if you pick up a Wizard King, you can even summon 2 of these suckers per turn. Yeah, things go crazy with that, and I really cannot stress out how massively good the Conjure Primal skill is, and I'd heavily recommend you to rush this skill ASAP. This is really one of the best early game steroids that I've seen so far, as the endless access to this. You just need mana. It helps you to swing around battles that I possibly couldn't have won at all that early in the game. They also accompany the baseline roster of your troops damn well. They usually fill the gap that your tier 1 units struggle with before you have your tier 2 town hall, so wow, go for that as soon as you can. I'd even go as far as I'd say, if you expect to have mana to spend in the very first turns, go for that as the very first spell. I'd even go that far, because it's really that good. But I don't know if the summoning range will stay the same, but even if this critter could be only summoned in 2 or 3 hexes vicinity of your own troops, it would be still an insanely valuable asset. That's how good it is. Now, as the next point, number 3, I want to go in detail about the Animists. Very, very special summoning units that have, for one, if you want them, the cavalry option, but I don't really see that as the big thing. The big thing about them is that they can conjure your primal animal as well. This elevates them from a utility unit to a real offensive unit in comparison to other supporters, as these guys rack up 2 stacks of Rising Fury. As soon as they have 5 stacks of Rising Fury, they can summon something. So you can really abuse that insofar as they only need to shoot once, and then another Animist just needs to toss their spiritual healing on top of them, and then they can summon something. I will go deeper into the Rising Fury tricks a little bit later on number 7, but what I'm trying to get into here is these guys have no limit on how often they can do that per battle. You see down there, no line of can only do that once per battle. Again, I don't know how long that'll stay like this, but as long as it is like this, it's going to be insanely powerful. If it ever gets nerfed into a once per battle or a high cooldown skill, it would be still very, very useful, because all in all, these guys pack quite a punch. They have healing capabilities, and they can inflict 3 stacks of Rising Fury on all of your troops, so they enable the boon condition. They are amazing troops. In no other culture, I would recommend you to have a third of your troops possibly as Animists. With these guys, it is a viable strategy, because they will churn out troops like crazy, and if you go for a couple of proper enchantments, even if your culture lacks innate access to battle mages, if you buff up supporters, they can also hit like a truck. Ever had a buffed up supporter crit your face with for 30 or 40 points of damage? Not a problem, can happen. It's an option. I wouldn't recommend it in the first place, because there are better options for this culture, but the Animists are the backbone of summonable creatures, and they also heal a lot. But that is the problem. Only single target healing. I'll get into that as well. But all in all, the bottom line stands. Animists are amazing supporters. I consider them really among the best that you can get for, well, the Primal faction and themselves, because they are real all-rounders. They are not only defensive units in this culture, and you should really take advantage out of that, in my humble opinion. So, the next thing that I want to talk about is terrain. The Primal Culture plays a lot around terrain. So here I went for the Sylvan Wolf totem, which is forest-based. So forest tomes are now super powerful. We are totally buffed up in the forest biomes. Your summoned unit goes also into an extra powerful mode when they are in your native terrain. That all sums up into you want to utilize that. If you're looking into your culture when you're creating them, many terrain specializations exist in the traits. For not for forest though, therefore I haven't had to pick anyone. So utilize that, and tomes. There are several tomes that are aiming towards certain terrain types. Ice comes to mind here as the first thing, which you can also utilize well. All in all, if ever you came across a tome that had a certain specific about a certain terrain type that you didn't see as a too viable option yet, goes your capability to do so. All in all, terrain matters a lot for this faction. Therefore, also, don't sleep on these dens. They are, oopsie, the primary point of your expansion, something I did really bad in this game. So you should totally aim to find these bad boys here on the map, as these are the beacons for your expansion. These are the things you're looking for, as these allow you to spread the terrain that you prefer outwards from the city that claimed this den. So you should really try to capture these and spread your terrain out, as this is such a massive benefit for this faction. I cannot stress out how much of a big difference it makes for the Primals to fight on their home turf or preferred territory. Really does make a ton of difference. So, next up, I want to talk about something that's not so good about these fellas. That's their squishiness. Since our only real defensive line for a long, long time is Tier 1 shield. After that, we get a shock unit, which is really good at dealing damage. I don't want to badmouth them. They have a cleaving attack with a momentum effect, so they can really hit like a truck. But they are not exactly too defensive. So all of your troops melt like crazy if they ever get sustained damage. Therefore, getting yourself some extra healing up to these animists is really, really important. So you can do this in several different ways. You can pick up tomes that help you with healing your troops directly on the battlefield. You got to be aware of the fact, though, you have already a healing spell in your pocket. So I didn't pick up the tome for the healing spells. I did pick up the tome for the damage. But if you want to pick up a tome that helps you with sustaining, I'd really recommend you something like the Tier 1 Faith tome. Something that gives, or anything that gives your supporters extra healing capabilities. Tome of Faith comes here to mind really as a powerful trick, as it is a free action. You get a free action touch heal. Very, very powerful combo. Can really, really recommend. But whatever you do, the bottom line is you really will need some help with the healing, because your animists just don't really cut it. Because to make matters worse, if you really want to have an optimal damage per turn, you would like your animists to actually attack, to get their Rising Fury up, to let them summon more stuff on the battlefield, but that means they can't heal. So that is also a discrepancy that you have to fill. Therefore, Tome of Faith is a really, really powerful one. I haven't found a better one for this purpose, as the free action heal lets you attack at the same time, so you can march up, touch, heal, fire. Good stuff. So, but if you don't go for this route, I can also strongly recommend boosting up the healing capabilities of all heroes, especially since everybody on your hero roster can get spiritual healing as an adept support skill, but more about that later. Either way, you will wither if you don't find some way to heal up your troops additionally to what they already got, because your tier 1 shields will ultimately crumble below the blows of tier 3 plus units, because that's just, they are good at what they do, but there's only so much you can demand from a tier 1 shield, even if they got a skill to heal themselves and whatnot. But yeah, it is just high vulnerability against magic attacks, so you get a very, very vulnerable side on that, so take care of that. But let's go over to number 6. Sustained combat qualities. I want to point out here at this moment, if you play your cards right, and if you have a lot of healing or summoning can also substitute healing to a certain degree, you get to the full rewards of the Rising Fury mechanic. As every 5 stacks of Rising Fury, they transform into 5 stacks of Fury. These trigger for each attack with a weapon effect. Here we can really outright nuke units. This damage is insane. If you add a few percentile bonuses on top of that, you can really eliminate a single unit like crazy with this effect. Other Primal factions get AoE or freezing or other really juicy effects. Either way, this faction thrives around the idea of a sustained skirmish. They are not good alpha strikers. That's their worst side, basically. So you want to stall the fight a little bit. You want to put something in front, some summons that give you some time to fire up the Rising Fury machine. All in all, if you manage to fire off the boon effects wisely, this is one of the most powerful things that this faction can pull off in detail. I think I will make some video probably about the Rising Fury mechanic in detail, because it is in itself a little bit finicky, and it might some of you might be enjoying some explanations. But all in all, your faction is good at delaying the first blow and then get back at the enemy in turn 3 or 4 with full force when your units all get these insane bonuses, which allow them to do really, really powerful stuff. It is really important to stress out with these boons, your tier 1 units turn into real machines. The damage bonuses you get from these are substantial, extremely substantial. Therefore, well, play your cards wisely. Everybody hitting Rising Fury gets 5 blows, or, well, depending on the unit type. I think the bigger ones use up more stacks, but I haven't checked that out yet. Anyways, all in all, long-term fight is good for you. Number 7, I want to talk a little bit now about what you can do to get this Rising Fury thing a little bit better under control. I already mentioned that putting spiritual healing on your heroes is a must-have, because you can manipulate your troops so darn well with that. Since this spell is the only way that I found to externally apply Rising Fury on your units, you can extremely nicely prime your units with that. What that means is try to get your unit that you want to use with the Fury bonus into a position where it can gain 2 stacks on its own, like blowing, like hitting somebody in the face with a shock troop, or whatever might be the case, and then smack spiritual healing on them, even if they don't need the healing. You should not see this skill only as a healing skill. That's what I'm trying to get down to here. It is also a primer, which allows you to enable the full-on boon mode, which can totally wreck the enemy. To give you a direct example, one of these spear guys is bad enough on their own, but if they manage to get into the enemy mid with 2 stacks of Rising Fury, and then you externally enable them with the boon, they can totally wreck the enemy out of nothing. And same applies to many of your other troops. All in all, playing wisely around the spiritual healing is one of the best things to do, and that's also why I recommend just racking up insane amounts of applications of this spell to have the ability to use it freely, as free as you want to. This includes, of course, put it really on every hero that you can get, as I didn't see any downside whatsoever. This is just making the whole strategy so much more powerful, as it gives you the ability to control where you have these stacks active, because without it you don't really control where this happens, and I often had the feeling as if the stacks or the boon was not triggering where I needed it. It was not happening where the action was at. But the more of these effects you have stacked up, the more control you have, A, to burst heal somebody, because, you know, this might be not the strongest spell of all, but if you smack it 2 times on somebody, it also does the trick. And it also gives you, like I said, the free access to your boon skills, which is amazing in every regard. So, number 8. I want to address another problem of this faction, their relatively low base damage. Your troops do not really exceed at dealing high base damages. This is to mitigate the extremely high bonuses that you get once your boon condition rocks into place. That's why you really should pick up some tomes that boost up your troops base damage. Every tome which features blades or an arrows enchantment which boosts up the damage comes to mind. You really can go for whatever you want, be it pyromancy, cryomancy, roots, whatever. It's the real important thing is you should have at least one of these enchantments in your baseline pile, because I felt like I had a harder time without clearing out anything in the early game, because yeah, you get a lot of power, but I felt relatively weak without the Fury stacks active and without any extra unit enchantments. So these guys, they really needed more than others, I felt like. All in all, they are also very, very grateful recipients of all percentile damage bonuses, namely strengthening. That is going really insane. Also, worthy recommendation here at that end, Tome of the Horde, giving you Spawnkin, which increases your damage again by 20%. This is another real powerful thing, because you get a lot of flat numbers out of the boons. That means percentile things are really, really going well on this. So, number 9, there's 2 tomes that I want to mention specifically for this faction, because they will work on everybody, on every build for them. This darned good. First off, the good old Jack of all trades Tome of Blades. This is for the Primal Culture, though, a real godsend, and I think would recommend it on every build even. Simple reasons. First up, it includes a upgraded tier 3 archer and shield unit. You already noticed something here. This is exactly what our faction is lacking to get forward into the mid and late game. So that is the first thing that struck my mind. No other tome fits so well into my baseline roster like that. Number two, aspect of the root is amazing, as it will upgrade not only your peasily tier 1 shield dudes, it will also give you tier 3 guys a powerful healing spell, so they can not only jump into the middle of the action, they can also really strike back and then heal up again after being focused. Good stuff. And I don't need to mention that the Entwined Protector is just the bulwark that your faction actually needs. The other two spells here are only really good if you have the Forest Totem, because I don't really see much benefit out of that. But in all honesty, these three spells on themselves are such a good fit. I really wouldn't know which primal build I would go for that wouldn't like these, except some that would go for a different archer and a different shield unit. Okay, but here you get both in one deal. This is, I think, as efficient as it can get. Anyways, moving on over to the Tome of Animists, which is another really powerful fit for any of these builds because several reasons. First off, the Mistling is the skirmisher that this faction also lacks, having a teleport ability, jumping back and forth like that, and debuffing the enemy with a elemental attack. We have a lot of lack of variety in damage. This fixes this up. Staves of Mist gives your troops a free action, another free heal, which is just what we need, and Clinging Mist is such a powerful buff, which gives us exactly the defenses that our squishy frontline can also totally use, and all the other tools here are pretty useful, especially Fey Touch gives you the ability to utilize the Clinging Mist to even buff your units. I didn't see Famist as a 100% fit like Glades, but I realized that the access to the Skirmisher, the access to the support upgrade, and the Fey Touch thing is a real powerful fit to the entire Primal Culture, where I feel, again, it would fit to any totem animal. So these two stood so far out that I really had to mention them. And number 10, to get to the end of this video, I want to talk a little bit about the cultural traits that make a lot of sense for these guys. So here I went for Ritual Cannibals, which is really good as, like I said, your guys need sustain. Powerful quality. Every time you blow up somebody, you can heal your units. Also, the extra mana and food helps your general game plan quite well. Also, Herbivore. Pretty good thing, as it allows you to do the same thing just without blowing somebody up first, and it buffs your units. Pretty good stuff. I really like it. I can only recommend it as, again, every form of sustain that is packed into a free action is amazing for this culture. Apart from that, I went for the cheap summoning skills. Here again, I see this as a massive fit for this faction in general, as summoning troops is really powerful and can be utilized, I think, for every game plan that you might want to use. It's not a must-have, but it's really powerful. Apart from that, when you go for your other traits here, something that helps your expansion, like Adept Settlers, comes to mind, as your culture is amazingly strong in producing food. Your qualities to achieve an expansion victory are real. You have a lot of food production, therefore it's easy for you to spam cities like crazy, and your troops are also quite ubiquitously available, as it is super easy to print out just a couple of troops and do the rest with summoning, as this really spices up your troop line. Apart from that, I feel like unit enchantments, the usual suspect, the good old runesmiths, comes always as a powerful option. But all in all, when it comes down to cultural traits, I think sustain, summoning power up, expansion power up, these three things, they really stand out massively. Also, a worthy mention at that point, everything that gives you more battlefield spell points is also very good, because in the spirit of long skirmishes It is amazing when you can dish out spells longer for a longer period of time, so you don't run out of juice after a couple of turns. This is also very, very good, since we're fielding a lot of supporters. The darkness traits that give you extra combat spell points for fielded mages is amazing. Anyways, I hope this helps you out to have some fun with the primals. They are I really like them. I really love this faction, and I hope you guys will too. Leave me a comment what you guys think. Leave me some good tips that I haven't found yet, because I'm pretty sure I'm only skimming the surface yet. Leave me a thumbs up, consider a subscription, and check out the description box. There's plenty of links to go around. There's Discord, where you can have a chat with me or like-minded gamers. There's Twitch, and there's PayPal, Patreon, and Buy Me a Coffee. If you'd like to support the channel, I'd be really, really happy. And check out the channel membership system too. It is an easy way to gain access to all the stuff that I have pre-uploaded and scheduled for release. That all being said, big thanks for watching, big thanks for all of you supporting the channel, and I hope you have a good time. Bye-bye.